Hi, my name is Manali, and today my presentation will be discussing Dante's perception of love as he expresses it in his work The Inferno. In particular, I'll focus on the notions of tragic love expressed in Canto 5 and the dialogue of Francesca and Paolo to Dante as they recount the story of their love to him. In this presentation, I'll briefly summarize the story of the Inferno. I'll recount about the story of Canto 5 in particular and discuss the major themes expressed through the canto. After this, I'll provide a historical background to the two key figures in the canto, namely Paolo and Francesca. I will then focus on how love is portrayed in all its various forms within the Inferno and connected to Dante's idea and perception of love. Finally, I will discuss how the notions of love expressed in Canto 5 resonate with a modern audience through the shared popular theme of young tragic love that existed both in medieval Europe and in modern art and media today. Dante's Inferno is an epic poem in which the protagonist, named after the author Dante, is initially lost in a thick dark wood. Reaching the base of the hill, he has a vision of golden rays emanating from the top of the hill, indicating a source of respite and salvation, and he begins to climb it to reach the top. However, he is prevented from doing so by three beasts, all of which act as hurdles to stop him from climbing the hill. Dante fails to get past the final beast, the she-wolf, and is saved by the spirit of the Roman poet Virgil, who explained that the hill Dante was trying to climb leads up to heaven, which Dante is not yet worthy to do so. Virgil states that Dante has divinely decreed by his love Beatrice, the Virgin Mary, and Saint Lucia to undertake the journey through the three spaces of hell, purgatory, and heaven in order for him to understand the true nature of sin and why humanity sins. Dante and Virgil enter through the gates of hell and begin to travel through the journey and throughout the different circles of hell. Throughout the journey, Dante meets and speaks to various different souls damned to hell, recounting their stories and telling Dante and Virgil of the life they lived, the sins they committed, as well as providing more context to the nature of sin and punishment in hell. The image in the background of the slide actually is an artistic representation of Dante's version of hell, wherein a mountain formed when the earth moved out of the way, as Lucifer was cast down from heaven and plummeted down into the ninth circle of hell, disgusted at his traitorous nature and refusing to touch him. Canto 5 begins with Dante and Virgil reaching the entrance of the second circle of hell, where the sin of lust is punished. Here, the souls who are unable to control their sexual urges during their lifetimes are punished. As the pair reach the entrance of Circle 2, they encounter Minos, the judge who judges the damned souls and sends them to their designated circle to inhabit, curling his tail a given number of times, which represents the number of the circle of hell that the soul must go to. Minos and Dante meets Dante and Virgil. Seeing Dante is alive, asks and questions why Dante is there. Virgil clarifies that Dante is here to undertake a divinely appointed journey to understand the nature of sin, so they must pass and continue onwards. Minos allows them to pass, parting with them. However, gives Dante a final warning, stating that it's easier to enter into hell than it is to leave. As the pair continue walking through the circle, they see the souls being carried away by strong, violent winds, which eventually cause the souls to crash against a landslide. The punishment is for their passions. They are now because of they were unable to control themselves and were carried away by their passions. They are now perpetually thrashed around and carried away by stormy winds. Virgil encourages Dante to try to walk to and talk to one of the souls, and Dante takes his advice and eventually approaches a pair of souls. Of the two souls, the woman agrees to tell them of their story. She reveals her name as Francesca de Polenta and her lover Paolo Malatesta. During their lives, Francesca was married to Paolo's brother but had fallen in love with Paolo. They continued their affair in secret until it was discovered by Paolo's brother. The pair were reading a story of Lancelot and Guinevere, and when the characters in the story shared a kiss, so too did Paolo and Francesca. They were caught by Paolo's brother, who subsequently killed them for the affair. As Francesca finishes her story, the pairs both begin to weep, overwhelmed by the heartbreaking tale, and overwhelmed with his emotions of sympathy and sorrow. Dante faints. The two characters who are the focus of Canto 5 are tragic lovers Paolo Malatesta and Francesca della Ponta. Francesca belonged to a noble family of Ravenna, Italy, while Paolo was part of the Malatesta noble family in the city of Rimini. The story of their secret love affair predates that of Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet, essentially making them the original star-crossed lovers. Francesca and Paolo had fallen in love with one another prior to Francesca's marriage to Paolo's older brother Gianchiato. In fact, Francesca believed that she was going to marry Paolo, not his older brother. As time progressed, Paolo was also married and had two children, although the union was reported not be a happy one. And Paolo and Francesca both carried out an illicit affair in secret. However, the pair were eventually found out and killed by Gianchianto for the affair. Overall, looking at this canto, it is clear to see the literary elevation and skill Dante executes when composing it. Not only are the physical descriptions of hell's environment incredibly vivid and detailed, which allows readers from all eras to be able to visualize these scenes clearly, but the overall language and dialogue which is used evokes deep, empathetic tones from the characters, which highlight the tragic nature of the canto. Throughout Francesca and Paolo's dialogue, there's a deep, imbued sense of love and sadness as Francesca recounts the events of their romance and death. Some of the most powerful verses in the Inferno overall are present in this canto, and those verses are Francesca's dialogue when speaking of her and Paolo's deep, passionate love for one another. In verses 100 to 108 of Canto 5, Francesca says, "Love, which pardons no one, loved from loving in return, sees me for his beauty so strongly that, as you see, it still does not abandon me. Love led us on till one death. Kind awaits him who distinguished out life." And this echoes a central notion to Francesca and Paolo's depiction in the canto that there's no greater thing for them than the love they shared for one another, regardless of the consequences. Their love, although being what led to their deaths, was what they both desired above all things, and Francesca's statement implies that she's able to remain with her lover for all eternity despite them being in hell, while their murderer is condemned to the worst circle of hell. However, the canto also has heavy themes of tragedy. The story of Paolo and Francesca was well known to Italian audiences at the time, existing more as characters from folklore, similar to the modern idea of Romeo and Juliet. Therefore, the idea that Paolo and Francesca fell in love from the moment they met, were forced apart due to their tragic circumstances, and eventually killed for their love, would have been well known to Dante's audience at the time, thus heightening the sense of shock and sadness experienced when reading Francesca's dialogue. However, a distinct separation is made between the idea of love and lust by Dante, as the lustful nature of the affair of both married individuals is what damned them to hell, regardless of the affair being tragic. There's also more of a feminist approach in this canto, wherein not only do both souls bear the blame for the affair, but also that Francesca is the one to tell Dante their story. In essence, Dante's depiction shows her regaining the voice and choice that she was deprived of in life. The types of love depicted in the Inferno are vast, normally all of them existing between human beings. However, Canto 5 deals with lust in particular. However, Dante again makes a point to differentiate between lust and love, lust being more illicit and a sort of bastardization of love, and love, the highest form of love, being that for God. Modern readers can empathize and resonate with the themes expressed in the canto. The notion of dying for love is a universally well known trope which still thrives in media to this day. It is due to the fact that the bittersweet notion of lovers being reunited in death and the afterlife provides an audience a sense of reprieve for the lovers, whose only sin was that they fell in love, to be able to live together forever. It stems from the fact that love is a universal human emotion which transcends the barriers of time, culture, or language. The idea of romantic love and fighting for love is acutely exists to this day, both in media and politics. And be it for the fight for equal marriage or the use of romantic star-crossed lovers being the central focus for films, books, and TV shows, love as a passionate drive for human action and something to fight for still thrives in modern audiences today. With the elegant, tearful dialogue of Francesca recounting the story of their love, it evokes the same strong emotions of sadness, sympathy, and grief that Dante experiences in the canto itself. The tragedy of lovers being killed for their love is a literary trope which has been heavily associated with Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, and hence a very well known and relatable trope for modern audiences. Regardless, the shock and sadness of lovers being sentenced to death simply for falling in love is what resonates with modern liberal audiences who would see two people falling in love more innocently and forgivingly than Dante. In conclusion, the notion of tragic love still resonates with modern audiences today and would relate heavily to Canto 5 of Dante's Inferno. Thank you.